Mansa, switch on your video. Yeah, and start. Sir is waiting. Yeah.
So everyone should go on mute as well as video off, I think, so that sir can start with his session. Okay. Yes, madam. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Very good morning. So I have told Mansa also to give the general welcome and also to speak something about the importance of GST by the time we have taken so many classes. So I request Mansa as well as Marwa to go on with your opening session.
Good morning, one and all present here. Welcome the struggles because they are lessons. Welcome them as if they are opportunities for a better life, and they will become opportunities for a better life. With this, I would like to welcome our dignitaries and all my friends present here. Now, I would like Marwa to introduce our chief guest.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marwa Sheikh. I welcome you all for this session on GST. Knowledge about GST is very essential for each one of us. GST is very important. Some benefits of GST is that it helps in startups. It helps in our economy. It eliminates the multiple taxes, and there are many more advantages of GST. Today, we are having with us Sri Govindappa, a resource person who will be orienting us on goods and service tax. I, on behalf of students of Chetan Business School, welcome you, sir. Welcome to the session, sir. I also welcome our director, Dr. Vishwanath Korvi, for this session. Welcome you, sir. A heartily welcome to our academic director, Dr. Ramakant Kulkarni, for this session. I also welcome all those who are connected with us with this meeting ID. Welcome you all, and also a special welcome to all my lecturers present for this session. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Marwa. Now, I would like to say to introduce our today's chief guest by Dr. Ramakant Kulkarni, sir.
Good morning to all of you. It's indeed a pleasure to welcome and introduce our own friend, resource person, well-wisher, Sri Gaurav Gold. Sri Gaurav Gold has been with us for so many years now and has spoken to us on different occasions. Some of you also know him, but nevertheless, it is essential that we introduce him properly to the session. Sri Gaurav Gold is a person with multifaceted skills and maybe interest. BA in economics and later MA in economics from Karnataka University. He served as a faculty of economics in the education institution, and later he switched over and came to Karnataka Chamber of Commerce at Hubli and served very distinguishedly the secretarial position and had exposure to various trade and commerce related areas during his tenure in the Chamber of Commerce at Hubli. Then he qualified the Karnataka State Administrative Service Examination, the class 1, and got into commercial tax and served with a lot of distinction in different places, and finally retired from Bidar as the Joint Commissioner of Commercial Taxes and has a very deep and wide knowledge in the taxation matters, having dealt at administrative level and varieties of the cases that was handled. Post-retirement, he has taken to a lot of social work and he is seen giving discourses on different subjects or different forums. Such a person who has been with us and has shared not only the taxation matters, but he has spoken once on the RCP, then on the budget he is a regular speaker to us, to our students, and he is again here today at the request of our institution that to share the most important subject which has taken the country to a different level since 17 July, the GST. We have asked him to share during his presentation the fundamentals and orientation about GST and some of the areas that we asked him, and we look forward to his session from that angle. I'm sure all of us will be benefited, and we also involved our first year students as orientation to the very important subject of GST. So therefore, sir, you'll find the final year students who have taken GST as a subject and the first year students who have taken the interest in the subject, and therefore, I'm sure your session will have a lot of benefits for all of us. Once again, welcome to you. So you can take over the session.
Okay. Good morning to you all. Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Sir, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Is it very clear?
Yes, sir, very clear, sir.
Sound is very clear. Okay. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Vishwanath Koreji and Dr. Ramakant Kulkarni. And it is always a great pleasure to talk to the students of the Chetana Business School on any important issue, maybe relating to the nation or the state or any social cause also. And today, let us directly go to a very important subject. That is I just want to cover various aspects of the taxation. Basically, to start with what is tax, and what are the important terms or the elements in the taxation, what are the types of the taxes, then what is the history of the taxation in India, and the evolution of the GST and the importance of the GST. These are very, very important things. So therefore, let us start with what is tax. Unless we understand certain basic things, it's not easy to understand the GST later. Then tax is a compulsory financial charge on a taxpayer by a government for national needs and the government expenditure. The word compulsory is here. It is a levy, it is a compulsory levy on a taxable person or a taxpayer. Here, taxpayer may be an individual, he may be a partnership firm or corporate concern or anything, or any legal entity. And this tax is levied by the government for its needs, for the building of the infrastructure facilities, and for education, health, and other social causes. Now, the word compulsory is mentioned here. Therefore, a failure to pay or the evasion of the tax by any person or resistance by a person for payment of the taxation is punishable by law. Now, there are very important elements in taxation. And once we understand these elements, we'll be able to differentiate between what is this kind of a tax and all that. These two important terms are impact and incidence of tax. Impact of tax, it is initial burden of the tax. When you levy the tax, that is the initial burden on whom it is levied. And secondly, it is at the point of the imposition. You are imposing a tax, you are levying the tax, so that is the point of the impact. And the impact falls upon the person from whom tax is collected. That means you are imposing or levying a tax on a person from whom you are collecting the tax. And fourthly, here, most important factor, shifting is possible. Shifting means transfer of tax is possible here. Shifting of tax is possible here. Then what is incidence? Number one is incidence is the ultimate burden of the tax. I will give an example later after this. Now, first is impact is initial burden of the tax. Incidence is ultimate burden of the tax. Ultimate burden means actually who is really paying that. And secondly, it is at the time the settlement. That means actually realization of the tax there. Then number three is this incidence rests upon who pays it. That what I said, who pays that. And fourthly, sifting process ends here. You cannot sift here on. It is like a dead end. I will just quote an example, to make it very clear to all of you. Let us suppose you have gone to the shop, you have purchased a mobile phone. Okay. Mobile phone, while you are purchasing, he will issue an invoice wherein he will charge the tax. The thing is, the government is levying the tax on a dealer. He is a registered dealer. Therefore, he is liable for payment of the tax. Initial burden is on that dealer. Okay. Now, it is at the point of the imposition only. And who is collecting that? It is rests on him. And here, sifting is possible. Last day I said, sifting is possible. Yes. Now, though he is paying the tax to the government, actually he is not paying it from his pocket. He is sifting that tax to the consumer, you, for you who has gone there to purchase the mobile, and he will collect the tax from you and pay to the government. Therefore, ultimate burden, that is the incidence, ultimate burden is on you only. And it ultimately the incidence rests on the consumer. And hereafter, the sifting doesn't happen here. Okay, this is one aspect. And let us suppose, secondly, you are earning a certain good income, and you are liable for the income tax. There, the tax is imposed on you, the tax is levied on you. Now, what can you sift the tax to somebody? No. Here, sifting is not possible. Sifting is not possible. Sifting, therefore, here, impact and incidence coincide. Impact and incidence coincide here in case of the income tax. These are the two very, very important. Therefore, impact is different and incidence is different. Therefore, impact is on one person, then incidence is on the other person, then it is called as a indirect tax. And if the impact and the incidence both are on the same person, then that is the direct tax. Okay. That's what, on the base of the incidence and impact, the taxes are classified as a direct tax and indirect tax. Then what is a direct tax? Already said, that's the both where the incidence, impact and the incidence are on the same person. The very definition of the direct tax is hidden in its name only. It is a direct. It implies tax is paid directly to the government by the taxpayer. The tax is levied on a person and he is discharging that liability. Therefore, it is a direct tax. Then indirect tax, the indirect tax payment is received by the government from the seller of the goods and services. That means here, indirect tax, who is making the payment? Here, the dealer or the businessman or the industry is paying the tax here. The tax is levied on him. It is the initial burden is on him. Imposition is on him. The seller in turn passes the tax on the end user, that is the buyer of the good. Ultimately, what I already said, in case of the incidents, he passes on that burden to the end user, that is a consumer, or maybe anybody, any intermediate user also. Thus, the name indirect tax, as the end user of the goods and service doesn't tax directly to the government. It does not pay tax directly to the government here. You are indirectly paying the tax to the government. Is it clear? These two are very, very important concepts here. The direct tax and indirect taxes are differentiated on the basis of the impact on the incidence. In case of the direct tax, impact and incidence are on the same person. In case of the indirect tax, impact is on some person and incidence is on the other person. Now, history of the taxation. Actually, the origin of the taxation, the taxation in organized way was actually started about 5,000 years back in Egypt. That is around 3000 BC. And later on, the Roman Empire, they almost, they went to the other Europe and North Africa, the Southeast Asian, some countries. Therefore, the taxation, started in most of the countries. But very important to let us come to India. The taxation, the term, it came during the period of the Industrial Revolution. You all know that. During the period of 1760 to 1840, the Industrial Revolution took place in Europe, England and Europe. And by that time, the British were in India. And what happened? And at that time, maybe you may be knowing, right from 3300 BC to 1757, that is the Battle of Plassey. Until then, the India, that for most, the economic history of India is around 5,300 years old. In 5,300 years of economic history of India, 4,900 years, India was on top of the world. 24% of the world production was in India only. 24% of the world production was in India. And India was producing textiles. Textiles, it was self-sufficient, and in fact, it was exporting to the European countries. And ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇದನ್ನ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ನೋಡಿ, ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ some people. Now what happened, the India's
Mute yourself.
Please
mute
mute yourself.
who is this? ಎಲ್ಲರದು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲರದು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ರಿ.
Ajmi, please unmute yourself.
ರಮಕಂಜಿ, please ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಲ್ಲರದು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. Who has participated here? Now what happened, in India during that period, Industrial Revolution, by that time, India was the prominent producer of the textiles.
Hello.
And England, England realized that. And during the Industrial Revolution, a lot of invention took place, a lot of machineries were developed, and it started textile industries in England. British started textile industries in England. After manufacturing, they wanted to send it, because India was the biggest market then also. They wanted to send textiles to India, but when the were brought to India from England, and the price, the cost of the textiles manufactured, that is, ಇದು ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ.
Mic is on, please mute. You are disturbing. Make sure you are.
It becomes a disturbance. Please, everybody should mute their this one, Okay, thank you. Then when the Britishers brought the textiles to India and wanted to sell them, the cost of the textiles manufactured in their machines, in their industries, was higher than the textiles available in India. Then it was a problem for them. Then they levied. How to increase the cost of the Indian textiles then? The only alternative was the levied excise duty. The levied excise duty on textiles to such an extent that the textiles manufactured in England became cheaper in India than the textiles available in India. That is how the excise duty came into picture in India. Then in 1860, income tax was levied to overcome the losses due to the military mutiny. Sipai Dange, you all know about it. And after that, they incurred huge losses. Therefore, to overcome, to cover up that, losses, they levied income tax. In 1918, new income tax was introduced. Again, 1922, new income tax law introduced, which continued up to 1961. And in 1924, the Customs Act was introduced. They continued up to 1962. And 1940, and again in 1962, the new Customs Act was introduced. Then Central Excise Act was introduced in 1944. And more importantly, in respect of the indirect taxes. And here, so far, the revenue structure, what it was in practice during the British period, continued in India even after independence for a few years. And in case of the indirect taxes, that apart from the excise here, in 1956, the Central Sales Tax Act was introduced. And in 1957, when Karnataka was the Mysore state, and the Mysore State Sales Tax Act was introduced in 57. In 1973, the reorganization of the state, and Karnataka was renamed, and Mysore state was renamed as Karnataka. Therefore, it became the Karnataka Sales Tax Act 1957. Again, in 1961, the Old Income Tax Act, which was introduced by British, continued up to 1961, and then the new in 1961 they introduced the new Income Tax Act, and which came into effect from 1/4/1962. Now, you all this is what before introduction of the GST. That means 1957, the Karnataka Sales Tax Act was introduced. In 1956, the Central Sales Tax Act was introduced. And both these acts were in operation until 2005. Until 2005. And what happened, all the developments because of the sales tax, you know it. Now I will explain to you. In the KST regime, that means when the sales tax was there in Karnataka and the central sales tax was there, the problem was the tax paid on raw materials was added to the cost of production. The tax was levied on tax. Therefore, there was a cascading effect. I'll explain to you as one example. I think it may be clear here. In the KST regime, what was happening? Purchase of raw materials from the manufacturer, let us suppose, for manufacturing a set of 10 pens. The raw material cost was 100 rupees. Then the central excise duty was there. Central excise duty was levied by the central government. It was not levied by the state government. I will explain to you how constitutionally the states were not supposed to impose any tax between the central tax on the production and the sales between the two states. Central excise duty was levied at 10%, that is 10 rupees. The basic value for levy of KST was 110. Now you can realize here the central excise, that 10 rupees was included in the basic value of the product. Therefore, that became the again basic value for levy of the KST. Therefore, 110 becomes the basic value for levy of KST. If the KST is at 10%, then rupees 11 is the KST. Then purchase cost of the raw material is 121. value addition by the manufacturer of the pens. Let us suppose he added a value to the tune of 79 rupees. Then production cost, including profit, it comes to 200 rupees. Again here, excise duty is levied. That is 10%, it becomes to 20%. This excise duty again become the part of the value of the product. The total basic value becomes 220. And on this case, it was levied, that is 20 to 10% means it's 22. The sale value of pen set became 242. Now you can just see here the central excise duty levied while purchasing the raw material. Then the central excise duty after manufacturing the pens, 20 rupees, plus also the GST levied earlier of 11 rupees, all became the cost of the basic, the part of the basic value of the product. That means we have been levying the tax on the tax. And naturally, it will be having a very cascading effect. Once this is the style of functioning, naturally certain things are not in the hands of the manufacturer. And he can improve the quality, he can have a new technologies, and he can reduce the cost of the production to some extent. But it is not in the hand of the manufacturer or the dealer. There, what happens? Ultimately, the product cost increases. Once the product cost increases, how can we expect to sell such products in the international market? How long you can run the country with this tax structure for a long period of time and still grow is definitely not possible. There is a limiting factor for this. Therefore, there were a lot of anomalies in earlier. We already seen that GST. What were the weaknesses in that structure? And now we are forced to bring the reforms. And you know that in 1991, with this kind of a tax structure, and our exports were totally reduced, and the imports started increasing. And in the later part of 1990, India's financial position was very bad. The foreign exchange reserves were not enough to meet the 15 days import requirements. And we had to pledge around 47 tons of gold with the Bank of England and the Bank of Japan to get a loan of hardly around $408 million. Then to get it from IMF. Then IMF imposed the restriction unless and until you bring reforms, economic reforms in your country, we are not going to grant a loan to you. Therefore, they imposed restriction on us to bring reforms. Therefore, in 1991, we voluntarily did not bring the reforms, and we were forced to bring reforms by IMF. And that was a problem came. Then we introduced economic reforms like liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And secondly, in 1995, on 1st of January, we became the members of the World Trade Organization. The basic principle there was naturally is a free trade or the reduction in the tariff and the reduction in the non-tariff barriers, so like subsidies and all that. And once you become the member of such an organization, World Trade Organization, which is interested in the free trade or the trade with lesser barriers and the lesser the tax burdens and all that, then there was no alternative for us to improve our efficiency and the competitiveness. Until that, we are imposing the customs tariff wall. Therefore, whatever the products manufactured outside, whenever they were brought to India, that customs tariff wall was protecting the domestic industries. Therefore, whoever, and when with the customs tariff wall, naturally the products sent from outside from other countries became costlier, and then our products, therefore, our products were sold. But when economic reforms were introduced and when we became the member of the World Trade Organization, there was no other go to improve our economic efficiency and competitiveness. Then we started thinking seriously as to what to do with the present tax laws, which have become an inhibiting factor for increasing our exports or to earn our foreign exchange earnings. Therefore, there was a major breakthrough in the year 2002. In the 2002, right from 1956 Central Sales Tax Act and SENVAT was introduced, in the year 2002, earlier it was excise duty, the central government introduced SENVAT. That means it was the set off of the input tax paid on the raw materials could be given set off. SENVAT was introduced by the central government in the year 2002. Then Karnataka government introduced value-added tax in the year 2005. These two important changes in the taxation were the major breakthrough in the taxation sphere of India. And again, there were limiting factors even with the VAT also. It was just one step, prior to the imposition of the GST. But it was not again the perfect tax structure, because even under VAT and the SENVAT, multiplicity of taxes were there both by the center and the state. Even apart from SENVAT, the central taxes, central excise duty, external excise duty levied under Medicinal and Toiletry Preparation Act, service tax, external customs duty, that is a countervailing duty, special additional duty of customs, central sales tax, surcharges, central cesses. And these are all the central levies apart from the SENVAT. Again, apart from the VAT, the sales tax was also there. Sales tax were, they are not, completely VAT was not introduced in all the products. Sales tax was there on some products. Apart from the VAT and the sales tax, the entertainment tax was there for the theaters. Luxury tax was there. Taxes on lotteries, betting and gambling was there. State cess and surcharges insofar as they relate to the supply of goods and services. Entry tax there. Octroi was there. Imagine, so many taxes levied both by the center and the state. How to administer? For a businessman, for the industry, should he do the business or only do this taxation, the compliance work only? It is impossible. Naturally, the production will be affected. And the second part is because the SENVAT and VAT, the anomaly, external customs duty, surcharge, etc., are not falling under SENVAT. They were not falling under SENVAT. Again, the double taxation. Double taxation, how it is a double taxation? The same thing, once the SENVAT was levied, it was levied by the central government up to the production stage. Once it crosses the production stage, if it comes to the dealer, that SENVAT became the value, it will be added to the value of the basic value of the product. That means it becomes the value of the product, SENVAT. Therefore, on that basic value, which was including SENVAT, the VAT was levied. Therefore, there was a double taxation. And that SENVAT, the set-off was not given, mainly because the state cannot give it because it was a central subject. With that result, there was a cascading effect. Because if you are levying a tax on the tax, naturally the prices will increase, which will lead to the rise in the prices of the product. Number 5, chain of input tax set-off is broken after the production stage. Already told, explained to you. In case of the SENVAT, it ends after the production stage. Until that, if the manufacturer was purchasing the raw materials from many people, whatever SENVAT paid on the raw materials purchased was available to take a set-off while levying the SENVAT on his finished product, on his output. Once that stage crosses, that input tax setup was not given. The SENVAT setup, whatever SENVAT was paid, by the dealer while purchasing from the manufacturer, and he was not getting the set off. Therefore, set off was broken here. This is very, very important point here for this is at this point how this GST is superior to all other taxes. Then absence of the level playing field. That means, still, each state has got its own taxes and a different tax structure. You all know that the most of the states were attracting the big businesses or big industries to their own states. They used to declare tax holidays, tax exemptions and subsidies and all that. Therefore, it was not a level playing field. And that was leading to the economic distortions. That means the industry which is supposed to be set up in a particular place, which has got a comparative advantage because of the raw material, maybe because of many things, it will not be set up there. It will be taken away to some other state, and which is definitely not good. And the cost of production will definitely be high, and you cannot stand in the international market. Then ease of doing business is not there. I already explained whether for the business people to handle all these taxes, ease of doing of business was not there. Then interface with the different departments, central, state, and local bodies, for excise duty, customs, and all that. The dealer has to, the industry person has to deal with the central government. For VAT, KST, and all that, they have to deal with the state government. And for entity tax, octroi, and all that, they were supposed to deal with the local bodies. And if there is interface with so many departments, how can you expect the businessman to concentrate totally on his production and come up and do better? And these were all the major anomalies. And SENVAT here, how the chain was broken here. Now the same example I'm quoting here, SENVAT 10%, it became 110. KST is levied at 11, again 10%, 11. Purchase of cost of the raw material 121. Okay, now value addition by the manufacturer of the pen. The value addition is less mainly because here the SENVAT is given a set off there, and under the KVT Act again set off of 10%, that is 11 rupees. 10 plus 11, it is 21 rupees is given a relief. Therefore, value addition is reduced to the tune of 21 rupees. KST 11 plus SENVAT 10, 21 rupees. Earlier, the value addition was 79. You observed it. Now it has brought down to 58. That means 21 rupees was added to the value of the cost of the product. Therefore, it became 58. Production cost including profit, it becomes 179. The production cost earlier, it was 200. Now it came down to 179 because set off was given here. SENVAT again levied at 10%. KVT 19. This one ultimately value of the pen cost is 216. Earlier, there 242. The value of the cost was 242. Now it is 216. This is one very important thing. And still then the SENVAT and VAT, this is again certain anomalies because the chain was broken here. And why now GST we started thinking, because with this SENVAT also, still the set of chain was broken, the prices were still high for the product and the cost of production was more, and the government started thinking seriously what to do now. We cannot continue with this tax structure in the future if we want to grow. Therefore, for the first time in 2000, Sri Atal Bihari Vajpayee, that the government, central government, the government at the center, Atal Bihari Vajpayee government mooted an idea of introduction or adoption of the GST for the first time in 2000. And then, later they formed the Empowered Committee to look into all aspects of the GST, what kind of the GST we should implement, what is the condition, what is the structure of national structure. The Empowered Committee under the chairmanship of Asim Das Gupta. He was the finance minister of the West Bengal. Then in 2003, the task force committee was formed under Sri Vijay Kelkar, the Kelkar task force committee. And thus that committee, they submitted the report in 2004 only. They recommended in 2004 only, the Kelkar task force committee recommended for implementation of comprehensive tax structure in India. And because they had realized all the limiting factors of the earlier taxation structure. However, we took, we could have introduced in maybe 2005 or so, when, we introduced the VAT, we pulled on, and with the GST was introduced only in the year 2017, that is on 1st of July 2017. That means almost after 13 years of the recommendation by the Kelkar Task Force Committee. Then let us see how GST is the best taxation house, For the student, this is very, very important. No multiplicity of taxes here. There are, because under KST, you may not believe, there are so many rates. Number one, the multiple rates were there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 18, 20, 22. It started with 1%, ended with 150% on liquor. There are so many different rates of taxes were there. And that was the big problem for doing the ease of business. That was number one. Again, multiplicity of taxes. Again, the taxes, we saw that excise duty, customs duty, excise duty, countervailing duties, such as all these service tax, these were also there with the central government and the state government. You already know that the VAT was there, and the KST, the sales tax was there, the entry tax was there, octroi was there, and entertainment tax, luxury tax, betting tax, all these taxes were there. Now, the most important, the relief given that is given is no multiplicity of the taxes. Single tax applicable all over India. GST is the only tax which is applicable all over India. Now, when the single tax is to be applicable all over India, then all the taxes have to be subsumed under GST. Actually, they have to be removed, they have to be abolished, they have to be submerged in the GST only. Naturally, the excise duty, we need all these medicinal excise, countervailing duty, cess, surcharge, and service tax, all these tax were subsumed under GST. Then again, under the taxes levied by the state, they were also subsumed. State, the VAT and sales tax, entry tax, octroi, purchase tax, taxes on lottery, entertainment tax, luxury tax, cess, surcharge, and all these taxes which were prevalent during the earlier period, VAT period, and they were all subsumed, they were merged with the GST. And here, no double taxation. The tax is not levied on the tax, a very, very important aspect. That is how we'll realize it later, because the set-off chain is not broken here. If right from the manufacturing point of stage to the last retailer stage, here double taxation is not there, set-off chain is not broken. Because that is the more advantage, that is an advantage. I will explain later about that. Naturally, because double taxation is not there, cascading effect was done away with. Then the flow of value addition chain and input tax credit are continuous. Now you will realize the importance of the here for this first time, we use the word input tax credit, input tax. What is input tax is? Input is what is purchased is an input. What is sold is an output. These two terms, these two terms got under VAT, they came into prominence under GST also. The input tax credit, that means whatever the input tax means, the tax is paid on the purchase. Input means purchase. Input tax means the tax paid on the purchase is called as the input tax. The tax paid on the sales or the output is called as the output tax. Here, input tax credit, it is continuous. You can take the input tax credit every stage, right from the production point to the retailer point. This set off is continuous. And very, very important point, provides common unified market. Earlier, under the GST regime and VAT regime, SENVAT regime, and the dealer was more concentrating for the state market only, the market in his own state. Because so many barriers, so many bottlenecks, so many blocks were there for movement of the goods from one state to another. And different tax structures were in different places. Now it's not like that. Now a manufacturer or the businessman, he looks nation as his one market. He can take his goods anywhere, either to Delhi or Uttar Pradesh, at Bombay, or here in the south to Chennai, or anywhere. Anywhere he can, because rules and regulations are the same. Tax is the same. Therefore, this is one unified market. This is very, very, very significant, because once the manufacturer gets a big market, his scale of production naturally has to increase, and his sales will be increased, and definitely there will be growth of trade in industry in the country. Number 8, ease of doing business. It becomes easy. Now you are handling with only one department, handling with only one department, no GST department. And okay, administrator wise, the Karnataka state government department is also taking care, and central government excise department, they are also taking care. That is apart from that, but GST is only one. Then reduces interface with the different departments, as already told, you need not, move from one state to the other. Now here, what is the GST regime, Purchase of raw material is the same, and GST at 20%. Earlier GST was there, 10% we are leaving. Now we have taken 20% because added SENVAT and GST all together. SENVAT and GST add together 20% we made it. It becomes 20. 120 is the purchase cost of the raw material. Again, he has added 59 only because he is getting around 21% early, that the benefit is getting it. The production cost becomes 179 and GST 20, and it becomes 35.8. That is the GST amount, and sale value of the pens was 214.8. Earlier, it was 216.59, and now it is 214.8. Now we are talking only up to this point. Later, the goods will go to the wholesaler, distributor, wholesaler, retailer, and the consumer. Therefore, total burden at the later stages will be reduced significantly. Now, to bring in force, the goods and services tax in the country, constitutional amendments were required. That is why it was delayed. It was to be passed both in the Lok Sabha, in the Rajya Sabha. Some amendment has to be made to the constitution, because earlier, that, in the constitution, there is a union list, there is a state list, there is a concurrent list. In the union list, it is related only to the center. State list is related only to the state government, and concurrent list, it is related to both state and the center. On any of the central government cannot, interfere with any subject of the state government. The same reverse is also the true. Therefore, now the thing is different. Naturally, why were the constitutional amendments were required? You will come to the importance of that. The center was, why? Because the center was empowered to levy taxes on services and goods up to production stage only. I think you understood this very important point. Center was empowered to levy taxes on services and goods up to the production stage. I told you earlier, the center was empowered only up to the production stage. It could levy the tax on that, and it could levy the tax on the services. The state government was not empowered to levy the tax on the services or the goods up to the production stage. That means, the sale, the production, on the production, not on the sale. Sale was it was like the state was levying the tax. Therefore, center had no powers to levy taxes on sale of goods within the state. If the goods are sold within the state, from one dealer to the other, from the manufacturer to the dealer, dealer to the wholesaler to the retailer, central government had no powers to levy taxes on sales. Very, very important. Sales of goods within the state. Then thirdly, the states had no power to levy tax on the sale of goods. Powers to levy the tax on the sale of goods. No, this is something is wrong here. The states had no power to levy the tax on the sale of goods from one state to another state. It should have been like that. No, it's not within the state. When the sales take place from one state to another, if I'm sending the goods from Karnataka to Maharashtra, then it is called as an interstate sale. And that interstate sale was in the union list. The state government was not empowered to levy tax on these interstate sales. This is one lacuna. Center had that problem and state had this problem. And more importantly, state had no powers to levy tax on services. Service was totally under the central government. Only the central government center was levying the taxes on services. State had no powers. Both center and state had no powers to levy tax on both sale of goods and services. That means, the state had no powers to levy the tax on the services and also the sale of goods. Similarly, because services, it was not coming within the ambit of the state. The sales of goods was there within the ambit of the state. For the center, again, sale of goods was not coming within the purview of the central government. Only services they were levying. Therefore, on both sale of goods and services, both center and the state had no powers. Very, 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 very important here, because under GST, sale of goods and services take place here. The word sale is removed here under GST. The word supply is there. Supply, because you cannot sell the service. Therefore, the term supply is being used under GST, supply of goods and services. And lastly, the state had no power to impose tax on imports. Naturally, import was the central subject, union subject. Therefore, it had no powers to levy the tax on the imports. Under the GST, then imports are also falling under within the for it is in the both state and the central government could levy the tax as an interstate sale. Therefore, what happened? New article 246A is inserted to confer powers to both state and the center to make laws with respect to goods and services being transacted within the state. Therefore, within the state, this new article 146 article was there. earlier. Now new article was inserted, 246A was inserted, and to give the powers to both state and center to make laws. They have to make laws on what, this, though it is actually GST, I will explain to you later, with respect to goods and services being transacted within the state. The proviso here, only the central government is empowered to deal with the interstate transactions again. It is for the taxation purpose, for the tax, the division of taxes purpose, that is, it is called as the interstate sale, but it is falling into the GST only, but center has the power to collect those taxes. Then second amendment, article 268A amendment is brought. New entry 92D is inserted in the union list, empowering the center to levy tax on the sale of goods and services within the state. 92D, it was inserted. By bringing amendment to this article 268A, actually the center was empowered to levy the tax on sale of goods and services within the state. Then article 366 amendment was made. Amendment brought to entry 54 of 7th schedule to state list. In the state list, empowering states to levy tax on supply of goods and services. Because it was only goods was there, services was not there earlier in that entry 54. Now, both goods and services are introduced. That amendment was made. The new article 269A is inserted. It is called IGST. I will explain to you what is IGST and all that. That is a tax on the supplies in the course of the interstate trade. And because this concept was introduced, then supply of goods in the course of import deemed to be supply in the course of interstate trade and commerce. Therefore, this article was necessary. Then new article 279A was introduced, and it was formulation of the GST Council. Now, all the structure, how the increase or the reduction in the taxes and everything, changing in the rules, regulations, everything are vested with the GST Council, and GST Council is taking care of all that. And it is representing all the state representatives are there, Union Finance Minister, all those people will be there on the GST Council. Then let us come to what is GST. Then you have seen, Karnataka Sales Act, it was a KST, Karnataka Sales Tax Act. When it was there, the tax was on the sale of the goods. And central excise duty of the CENVAT was on the production of goods. Okay. Again, services was on the supply of the services and all that. In what way, what is GST? In what way it is different? Let us look into this. GST is a tax on goods and services. Goods and services. Very important change is being brought here. With the comprehensive and continuous chain of set off benefits from the producer's point and the service provider's point on up to retailers' level. See, the tax levied, the paid either on the goods or the services. Every stage, continuous chain. It is there in a continuous chain of set off. At each stage, set off of the tax paid at the previous stage is given while paying the taxes on his sales. If he's, finally the total liability on his final sale to the consumer is, let us suppose 20 rupees. If the set off already paid taxes on the earlier stages is, say, let us suppose 15 rupees, then he has to pay only 5 rupees to the government. it is essentially a tax only on value addition at each stage. That means at every stage, a trader, a businessman, or an industry is paying a tax only on value addition. Only on value addition. If his value addition is only 10 rupees, he is paying tax only on that. And the supplier at each stage is permitted to set off through a tax credit mechanism. It is a tax credit. Whatever tax paid by you on your inputs or on your purchases, that tax credit is given to you, and you should take the tax credit while paying your output tax or your total tax to the government. GST paid on the purchase of goods and services available for set off on the GST to be paid in the supply of goods and services. Already explained to you. The final consumer will thus bear only the GST charged by the last dealer in the supply chain, with the set off benefits at all the previous stages. Now, consumer, what he is paying, that is exactly the tax charged by the government. Earlier, the consumer was not aware of the taxes that he was paying, to what extent he was paying the taxes. He was not knowing how much he was paying the SENVAT. He was not knowing how much KST he was paying. He was not knowing how much VAT he was paying. And therefore, now, ultimately, the actual burden of the tax to the consumer is that is what at the last stage, when the retailer is selling to the consumer, whatever the taxes paid by the consumer is actual taxes. There's the actual taxes, and that is the actual tax burden. Now, broad concept of the goods and service tax. It is a GST model. We said, to start with, compared to when we're comparing the KST regime and the VAT regime, and we said that there are no multiple taxes, and there is only a single tax that is throughout the nation and all that. Again, here, GST model is different here. You can see it, GST divided into intrastate and interstate. Intrastate means within the state. Interstate means between the two states. Intrastate, there are two concepts of GST. That is CGST. CGST means Central Goods and Services Tax. Then SGST or UTGST. That is SGST means State GST or Union Territory GST. And interstate sale, that is IGST. IGST means Integrated Goods and Services Tax. Now you may ask the question, when the object was to bring a single tax for the whole of nation, why again this, the mess? There are, three taxes now here. One is a central government goods and services tax, and there is state GST goods and services tax, and third one is integrated goods and services tax. Why we have to adopt that structure? Why did not adopt a single GST rate? Only GST, not SGST, not CGST, not IGST. Why? Because the main features of our nation, it is a federal structure of India. Strong center with the states. This is our structure. Center is there, states are there, like Canada. Therefore, there are two components of GST. Because now each state government needs funds for its needs, for public welfare programs or for building the infrastructure and all that. Each state government needs funds, revenue, and at the same time, central government also needs revenue. Then we should adopt such a model. We cannot adopt a model which is adopted in France, Germany, and all that. we cannot adopt that single GST rate in India. We should look into our federal structure, and therefore we borrowed the GST structure in Canada and adopted it. Therefore, we made two components. GST is divided into two parts, that is CGST, Central Goods and Services Tax, then State Goods and Services Tax. Third one, SGST and CGST are levied simultaneously on every transaction of supply of goods and services. Now, only one GST is levied, but that GST is divided into two parts. If the GST is, let us suppose it is a 10%, that will be divided into two parts, 5% and 5%. 5% SGST is levied and 5% CGST is levied in the same bill. SGST and CGST are levied simultaneously on every transaction of supply of goods and services, except exempted goods or services, goods that are outside the provision of GST, transactions below the threshold limits. Three things are here. Naturally, when there are exempted goods and services, the question of levy the tax doesn't arise here. Then goods that are outside the purview of GST, that means for now we have kept the petrol, diesel, natural gas, liquor and all these outside of the purview of GST now. Therefore, naturally the question of levy of the GST doesn't arise here. Then transactions below the threshold limit. That means now there is a small dealer is there. I will come to what extent, what is the threshold limit and all that. Very small dealer, and who is not coming within the taxable, the limit, the turnover limit, and naturally, if the transactions are below the threshold limit, then he cannot levy the tax. Therefore, excluding these three categories, on every, it is called as the invoice, GST invoice. In that invoice, both the taxes have to be levied. Yes, GST and CGST are levied simultaneously. Okay. Then fourth, both SGST and CGST are levied on the basic value of the goods. Unlike the state VAT, which is levied on the value of the goods inclusive of the central excise. This is the most important change which has differentiated GST to all other the taxes. Here, at each stage, the taxes are levied on the basic value only. Earlier, you will just now here, purchase of raw materials 100, that's 10 rupees is a tax, 110 it becomes. Basic value becomes 110. On that, KV80 10% is levied, that is 11 rupees. Now under GST, the basic value remains 100 rupees only. And not, SENVAT is not added here while levying, earlier, we're adding for levy of the Karnataka value-added tax. Now it is not levied. Therefore, tax is on 100 only. Again, in the later stages also the same thing. The value addition is made. Again, it is a 100. The value addition is 158. Therefore, 158, the 59 is addition here, and that is 100, 159, that becomes, the total basic value on that. Every time, only whatever value addition that he's making is the tax is levied on that. Tax is levied on that. Both are levied on the basic value of the goods, not where here the tax component is not included in the basic value of the product. Next. SGST will not be calculated inclusive of CGST, and therefore cascading will go away in the GST. earlier under the SENVAT, what we're doing, SENVAT and VAT. Therefore, that SENVAT was included and then the VAT was levied. Now here, SGST, that means state GST will not be calculated inclusive of CGST. Here, earlier like in a SENVAT, it is like a CGST now. This is not included in the basic value of the product and the taxes may be levied on that. And center would levy and collect the CGST. State would levy and collect SGST on all transactions within the state. Center would levy and collect CGST. That means central GST. It is that means that amount is going to the state central government, and this SGST will go to the state government. Input tax credit of CGST is available for payment of CGST liability on the output at each stage. Here, because the revenue is segregated between the center and the state, the input tax credit, let us suppose you have got input tax credit of central GST, that you should take it only while making the payment of CGST only, not while making the payment of the SGST. Then input tax credit of SGST is allowed for payment of SGST and output, same thing. They cannot claim the CGST here, and they can claim only SGST for payment of on the SGST. Then the third concept, two concepts you already seen now. Third concept is IGST, Integrated Goods and Services Tax. And this tax is levied on the supplies made in the course of interstate trade. In the course of interstate trade means if the sale is happening from one state to another, it is called as a sale in the course of interstate trade or the supply in the course of interstate trade. Center would levy and collect IGST on all interstate supplies of goods and services under Article 269A amendment. We already seen that. Therefore, IGST, then how IGST has to be calculated? IGST is equal to both CGST and SGST. Let us suppose GST is 10%. That GST is divided into two parts, that is 5% of the CGST and 5% of SGST. Then IGST is equal to 10% only because it includes both. Main features, why IGST is introduced? Seamless flow of input tax credit from one state to another. The chain was broken here. Earlier, for a dealer, there were two chains, very important chains. One was SENVAT. After the production stage, set of chain was broken there. And secondly, for a dealer who was selling the goods in the course of interstate trade, that's from one state to another state, there the CST was levied, and that was not available for set off. That was again included in the basic value of the product, and the local taxes were levied on that. But now here IGST is introduced. Even IGST is also available for set off. Therefore, there is a seamless flow of input tax credit from one state to another. Seamless flow. There is a continuous flow of input tax credit is there. No blockade of funds for the interstate supplier. What was happening was, for the interstate supply, it was involving only in interstate supplies. Actually, the local rate of tax was more. And earlier, there were C-forms. And against C-forms, the tax was, the reduced tax rates were there. Naturally, if his sales are more in the course of interstate trade, what happens? The taxes paid on his purchases were more than the output tax. Naturally, what happens? Now he is eligible for refund of the taxes from the department. And for certain period to get the refund, it was taking a lot of time because assessments were there. Assessment had to be made. Only after the completion of the assessment, then the refunds were given. That was taking pretty long time. And therefore, to that extent, the funds were blocked. And the working capital of the manufacturer of the dealer was hampered there. No refund claims as ITC is used except in respect of the exports and some rare cases. The question of refund doesn't come here. Claims as ITC is used because no, same IGST is again equal to the amount, equal to the total GST it is levied. Therefore, the question doesn't arise unless the dealer is engaged in exports. Exports, once he exports, he is exempted. Naturally, he is eligible for refund of all the taxes, whatever paid on all these purchases. And some rare cases in the sense, a manufacturer, if he is purchasing the raw materials, which were at the higher rate of this one, GST, high rate of GST, and whatever, he's produced, the product produced or the commodity produced, if he's liable for the lesser tax rate, then the question of refund comes, and that is a very, very rare case. Therefore, it is a self-monitoring model. There is an inbuilt mechanism in the IGST, and this very important IGST concept opens up the market. Now, earlier there was a limiting factor, and now it opens up the market. Entire nation become one market, one nation. That is a basic concept now. For creation of the, the GST, that was a basic objective of bringing one market for the one nation. Remove state barriers. All the checkposts were there. They were all, nothing is there now, no barrier. So except they are checking only the documents when you are carrying the same documents everywhere. Earlier, the documents were different. Andhra had a different document, Karnataka had a different document, Maharashtra had a different document. And while checking at the international borders checkpost, if you are sending the material from Hubli to the Delhi, so many checkposts you have to pass through. And the people in the offices in the checkpost may not be knowing the rules and regulations in the other state. Therefore, unnecessary, the barriers and hurdles were there. Therefore, this IGST removes all the state barriers, brings a national market. It is a whole, anybody can, he need not think of a local market at all. He can think of a national market now. Helps growth of GDP. Automatically, once the GDP is introduced, naturally, the nation, the entire nation becomes a one market. The sales will increase, which in turn will create a demand. Demand will increase the more production. That is how and this is how it helps for the growth of the GDP. Actually, when we introduced GDP, even most of the countries, even Japan, the private agencies, they were also, they came out with a report. They said the India will definitely grow above 8%. GDP growth rate will be above 8%. But unfortunately, and we introduced in the year 2017, and for 4 years, right from 2014 to 2018, say early part of the 18, for 4 years, in fact, we're number one in the world, the fastest growing economy in the world, right from 7.24% up to 8.15%, we achieved the growth rate in the GDP. But only the recession started even in the Western world, even in India also after 2018 first quarter. And again in 2000, after the end of the 2019-20, this pandemic COVID-19, it started. Now we are really in a, the economy has gone down like anything, not only of India, but all the world economy. Now, one very important aspect is cross-utilization. No cross-utilization of input tax credit in respect of the CGST and the SGST, except in the case of interstate supply of goods and services under the IGST model. Then the cross-utilization of input tax credit is allowed between the goods and services under GST. Now, as I told you earlier, CGST is falling within the purview of the center. SGST is falling within the purview of the state. And IGST is again with the center only. Naturally, you cannot claim, let us suppose you are effecting a sale and now you have got a SGST, yes, let us suppose it is a local sale you have made. You have purchased the goods from Maharashtra. You got the IGST input tax credit is there, or you may be having the CGST credit also, but you cannot claim here. Here it is said, IGST can be claimed here. IGST, if you are purchasing from Maharashtra, while effecting a local sale, you can claim this IGST. And you can claim even for the CGST, even for the IGST also you can claim it. CGST, only IGST can claim it and CGST only. SGST again, IGST can be claimed and SGST. Therefore, cross utilization is not here. Cross utilization is not possible between the, but services, goods and services. Let us suppose you have got the input tax credit on the goods. Let us suppose SGST, and you have got you are due for payment of the SGST on services. Therefore, whatever the tax credit on the goods, you can definitely claim while supplying the services. Then earlier, I explained to you how many rates, and 25 rates were there under GST regime. Even VAT regime, there were so many taxes also. Now that were streamlined, because unless these rates are very limited, because now one rate cannot be levied also here. India is a different country where different class of people are here, and very poor, middle class, and rich class, all kinds of people are here. Therefore, goods consumed by all people, goods consumed by the poor people have to be thought of that, and certain goods have to be exempted, and certain goods have to be levied at a lower rate of tax, and certain goods have to be levied at a little, moderate rate of tax, and luxury goods, that they call as a demerit goods, they have to be levied at a very high rate and all that. Therefore, here, lower rate was 5% on basic essential goods. Now, everything, whatever we need for day-to-day consumption, and they're all essential from poor man to the very rich man also. Therefore, all goods are taxable at 5%. Some goods are taxable at 12%, some are at 18%. And these items with at least 27% tax incidence are levied at 18%. Now, earlier, and all these tax rates are definitely for less than the total tax element in the earlier tax regimes. Now, earlier, 27% was there all together. VAT, this and everything together, it used to be around 27%. All the goods which were liable for 27%, now they have been brought down to 18% here. Again, higher rate for 28% demerit goods like tobacco products, cigarettes, pan masala, aerated drinks, and all that. And gold is they made it a 3% because very high value commodity it is. A very sensitive commodity. If a little increase in this tax on a gold, naturally more evasion will take place. And to do that, they have levied a lesser rate of tax, that is 3%. Higher rate of tax at 8 services, higher rate of tax is 18%. Lower rate of tax is again 5% or 12%. Now, earlier you can just see it here. Earlier on the GST regime, it was earlier current pin, that means earlier regime. The goods where there was a nil and nil, now they are all exempted here also. The goods which are liable for 5 to 6% tax, they have been levied at 5%. Now, the goods which are levied at 12.5%, 13.5%, and 14.5%, they have been levied at 12%. 6%, that's again the GST that is being within excise duty, that is being brought down to 5%. 6% excise duty and VAT 5% or 5 or 6% that is brought down to 12%. 6% excise duty, 12.5% VAT that is brought down to 18%. 12.5% excise duty, 6% again is brought down to 18%. 12.5% of excise duty, 12.5% of VAT, brought down to 18%. Again, there are certain products, earlier it was only 25, that is a demerit goods, they have been increased to 28%. Then the question comes, is it necessary that all the dealers are liable for registration? Is it compulsory on the part of all the dealers to take registration? No. Who are all supposed to take registration? Persons required to obtain registration. Every supplier who makes a taxable supply having aggregate turnover more than 40 lakhs in a year. Now earlier it was very less, actually it started with KST regime, it was 2 lakhs, then it was increased to 5 lakhs and all that. Here also under GST earlier it was 20 lakhs. Now the threshold limit is 40 lakhs. Earlier, we referred the term threshold limit. 40 lakhs now. Supplier whose taxable turnover, taxable supply is more than 40 lakhs in a year, then only he is liable for registration. Otherwise, if his turnover is less than 40 lakhs, he is not liable. And secondly, this is for some states. And in case of the special category states like Assam, Sikkim, Himachal Pradesh, all the northeastern states, where the total business turnover is very less, turnovers are very less there. And naturally, if the 40 lakhs is made, most of the people will be coming below the threshold limit. The question of the levy, if the tax doesn't arise, and naturally all the state governments will definitely suffer from the revenue loss and all that. Therefore, in these states, every supplier who makes a taxable supply having aggregate turnover more than 20 lakhs, that means 50% is reduced here in a year for special category states. Therefore, it is the 20 lakhs and 40 lakhs and 20 lakhs. Then compulsory, in addition to this, now this turnover threshold limit is not applicable for some people. Who are they? Some dealers are not, it is these restrictions are not applicable, limits are not applicable because who are they? Persons making any interstate taxable supply. Interstate supply, whoever is making any interstate supply or the sale, he is supposed to take, it is compulsory on his part to take registration. Even the turnover may be 1 lakh or 50,000, anything. Then casual taxable pay persons. Some persons, come there to the cities. They sell it for 10 days, 20 days, or for 1 month or so that. Then again, they close their business and go back. For them, again, they have to take registration. That threshold limit is not applicable. Non-resident taxable persons who are not here, they are residing other than India, outside India. Therefore, this threshold limit is not applicable for them. Then persons paying tax under the reverse charge. Reverse charge, I think, is a new concept that you are now you come to know about it. Reverse charge is, now if you are purchasing the goods from a person who is not registered, therefore the tax is not levied at that point. Now you have to pay the buyer have to raise a self-invoice and pay the taxes, calculate the taxes. That is called as the reverse charge. The people who are buying the goods from the non-registered people, and actually what happens, otherwise if the people who are buying from the unregistered people, and naturally those commodities would totally be out of the taxation net. Therefore, the reverse charge, any amount, small amount is there. Therefore, he has to take registration. Persons who are making TDS tax deducted at source. Any government department who are making tax deducted, so they have to take registration. or the local body HDMC is here, they have to take registration. Person supplying goods on behalf of others as agents. In the APMC, you may be knowing the person, the purchasing commission agents and all that. Then they have to take the registration. All these people, irrespective of their turnover, irrespective of their sales, they have to take registration. Then persons who are not required to take registration, dealer dealing only in exempted goods, you need not take. There are the exempted goods are there, you are dealing only in exempted. But if your exempted turnover is 39 lakhs and 2 lakhs is the turnover of the taxable goods, again, you are liable to take registration. This is entire turnover should be only of exempted goods. Then only you need not take registration. Then agriculturist definitely is not supposed to take registration. And one more scheme is being introduced. It is called as the composition levy. Composition levy means it is in lieu of regular rate of tax. Now, so far we discussed that is the GST, CGST, SGST and all that. Now there, regular taxable person, regular taxation that is. And now to help the small dealers and the small manufacturers, this composition levy scheme is being introduced under GST also. It was there earlier under VAT also. Then what is the scheme? A taxable person, a dealer or a manufacturer whose aggregate turnover does not cross 1.5 crores can opt for composition. That means even if your turnover is 1.5 crores, you should opt for the composition, then you are treated differently. The fair treatment is given to you here. And what is that fair treatment? The GST is not 5%, it's not 12%, it is not 18% or 28%. GST is only 1%. More important is dealer or manufacturer only is engaged in supply of goods and only if is engaged in manufacturing of goods. For them, 1.5 crores is the turnover limit. Below this turnover limit, he can opt for the composition. Then he can pay only 1% GST. That 1% GST is divided in 0.5% and then 0.5%. CGST 0.5 and SGST 0.5%. And this is the first facility is applicable to all other states except northeastern states. As already told you that the turnover is very less there for northeastern states. It is fixed at 75 lakhs. That how 40 lakhs was the threshold limit for regular registration and 20 lakh for the northeastern states. Similarly, under composition also it is divided. It is exactly reduced to half, 1.5 crores to 75 lakhs now. Then, if it is, I told you, it is only dealer or the manufacturer. Then for a service provider, earlier this composition levy was not applicable for the composition dealer, for a service provider, and for a supplier of both goods and services. Now, one concept is, one is purely a service provider, like a transporter. One is supplier of both goods and services. He is dealing in goods and also supplying services. For them, the threshold to opt for composition, their turnover should not cross 50 lakhs. If the turnover is less than 50 lakhs, then they can opt for the composition levy. But here the rate of GST is little high. It is 6% because CGST, because they actually usually the rate of tax is more in the case of the services. Therefore, it is being made. It is divided, 6% is divided to 3% CGST and 3% SGST. For restaurants also, this composition scheme is applicable. For them, turnover is not specified here. GST at 5%, the 2.5% plus SGST 2.5%. He cannot take GST credit he cannot charge and collect tax. These dealers who are under composition cannot take the GST credit. Input tax credit cannot be taken by them while paying their, let us suppose, while paying 1% or 6% or 5%, they are not supposed to take the input tax credit, number one. And number two is he cannot charge and collect GST. He cannot issue the GST invoice. He cannot, GST invoice means where the dealer is supposed to mention separately the CGST, SGST or IGST. Now he cannot charge, therefore, he cannot issue the GST invoice. He has to issue the bill of supply. He has to issue the bill of supply where he cannot charge GST. Then dealers not eligible for composition levy. Supply of goods not leviable to tax under this act. Naturally, the goods are not, leviable under the tax, like, liquor, the aerated drinks and all that, they're not liable. Interstate outward supplies of goods. Therefore, any dealer, even if a small turnover he has done in the course of interstate trade, if has, say, affected the sales outside of the state, any small turnover, then he is not eligible to opt for the composition. Then e-commerce operator, all the Amazon and all that. Then manufacturer, the notified goods. Certain goods are notified and they are not eligible for composition levy. Now, again, the ones the dealer take registration and he has to abide by the rules and regulations stipulated under the GST Act. He has to levy the, already told you what is tax, is a compulsory financial charge on the taxable person, on the taxpayer. Therefore, it is compulsory. And GST is such a levy, even any small mistake done, it will definitely come to the notice of the department, because if you are taking the input tax credit, if that person has not paid, the person who has supplied goods to has not paid the taxes, then immediately the department will notice that. Then all the corrections have to be made. Now, the most important, main important developments have been, these are all then every registered dealer and levy the tax at the rates stipulated. Then he should submit the return, monthly return, quarterly return, annual returns are there. He should submit the returns and pay the tax of what is due to be paid. Failure to pay, that person is liable for severe punishment, including arrest also. Friends, this is up to the GST. Now, GST, our Honorable Prime Minister, when this tax was introduced, he gave, as usual, he always gives a new definition for everything. He defined the GST in a different way. He said, GST is a great step by Team India. GST is a great step towards transparency. GST is a great step towards transformation. Definitely, this is a great step by the India, because more than 160 nations have already implemented GST. In fact, we delayed for a longer period, and at least better late than never, we have brought into force the GST, and this will definitely, our exports will be increased because our products will become more competitive and efficient, and the rates, because the rates of the products, definitely the cost is reduced on account of the removal of all the other unnecessary burdens and the barriers. And GST, under GST growth rate of GDP, the nation will grow definitely at a high rate. And because 40 lakhs threshold limit is given, and 40 lakhs and 20 lakhs, and all the small dealers are left out here. the administrative cost, the compliance cost is being reduced. And even those dealers, they are allowed to grow. Once they cross that 40 lakhs, that means the dealer has grown big, and therefore he will be coming under the tax net, GST net, and he has to pay the taxes. It is one of the most important taxes that we levied in our country, and the country has definitely a good future. And only thing unfortunately during the last 2 years, we have not been feeling that. Still again, the revenue collections were very good. The revenue collections after the introduction, more than every month, 1 lakh crores or 1.15 lakh crores, something like that, it was there. And now, once we come out of this, the corona pandemic, really 1930s depression, I think the same situation, huge financial crisis, I think maybe the nation or even the world will face maybe in the coming few months. Let us pray God, let this corona pandemic come to an end as early as possible, and let us save very huge population in the country now. 138 crore population is there, and at the same time, most important at this time is we should save our lives, and we should not neglect why it has spread so fast in India. God was great, we're not affected much during the first wave, and we neglected the basic things. And now the result is, I think India is facing a huge, the deaths, actually huge number of deaths in the country, huge number of deaths. And therefore, let us observe, let us take this pandemic very serious. It is going to spread. Take care, be at home, and maintain a social distance, wear a mask. Let's hope that it will end maybe in another 2-3 months. Let us come back to normalcy and start living a better life. And thank you for these words. Thank you, Chetana Business School, Dr. Vishwanath Karvi and Dr. Ramakant Patil, and all the faculty, the respected faculty of the Chetana Business School, for having, this is the time that I really made fruitful use of this time to share some of my thoughts on the importance of the goods and services tax. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I would like to ask my friends if they have any doubts, they can ask here.
Screen close ಮಾಡಿ sir.
Yes, may I, sir?
Yeah, please.
Hello, may I ask one question, sir, related to GST?
Please, madam.
So we have recently started the class for the students regarding GST, and it was a wonderful orientation for the students. It was a startup for them. So I think so they might have taken very good inputs from this session. And thank you for providing such a valuable information. So just when I was seeing your PPT, one question struck me. As you said, on alcohol liquor, composition levy is not imposed.
Yeah.
Right? It is not imposed on alcohol liquor. My question is, when this is one of the revenue, most earning revenue, then government can think of imposing tax on the alcohol also. So will it make any difference on it?
Yeah, definitely, because madam, already that means it is only the GST is not levied on the liquor. GST is not levied on the liquor, but earlier tax, GST, sales tax is there on the liquor. It is a major revenue earner for every state government. Therefore, the respective state governments requested to keep this liquor out of the GST network. So that they are getting good amount from there, because once the GST also comes, definitely in the days to come, it will also come within the ambit of the GST. No problem about that. It will come. But the stability is very important for every state government. And they were getting certain amount of revenue earlier. Now suddenly, with the GST, if there are imbalances, they, just to have a precaution, some safety, they have requested, to keep certain products outside the GST net, and definitely in the days to come, all the goods will come within GST, and only one tax on all the commodities will definitely be there. You have got a good suggestion. That is actually, it is totally right. Totally right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. Any of you would like to give any feedback on the session?
Yes, very good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, very good afternoon, Doctor.
Sri Gaurav Goel and Professor Ramakant and all my learned colleagues and student friends. In fact, it was a wonderful session. As all of you are aware, GST, every time the people talk about GST, but many a time, a lot of confusion among the general public, what this GST, how it is going to have an impact, and what are the advantages of the GST and all of this. And as all of you are aware, due to advancement of the technology today, we are able to have one nation, one tax. Otherwise, every time there used to be a lot of confusion. So whenever any goods used to be transported from one state to other state, a lot of confusion, a lot of issues about the taxes. But now that all been taken away, and now it's a time for the country as a whole to take advantage of this and move forward. Because you don't have to bother much, whether you are going to produce in Kanyakumari and going to sell it in Kashmir, or going to manufacture here in Karwar and sending it to the West Bengal. So not to worry about that. The whole country has become one nation, one tax. So that is what the only awareness is to be brought into among the people. And we need to cooperate with government and follow the new guidelines of access. And today in a session, Sri Gaurav Goel, wonderful session, and has covered almost all, right from the history and even prior to that. What was the system in India and how we have changed our tax system, and what are the advantages that we're going to have by undergoing this. This way, it is as a student, it is your time to learn the tax system and adhere to that, and also create an awareness among the people and take advantage of this. Probably due to the pandemic, couple of years, even though we had a hard hit about the revenue collection of GST and because low sales and all of that, but we had a ever highest revenues that we collected, and that would have been continued. The situation definitely again would have created a new record in collection of GST, but due to this pandemic, again slightly it is affected. But I'm sure once the things are getting normal, yes, definitely once again the India as a whole will definitely going to shine, and where the real benefit of GST is not yet reached the states and the people. And probably once all these things are getting normal, yes, definitely yes, the India, the proper amount collected in the form of GST would be utilized for the benefit of the people, welfare of the people. Yes, definitely that is how the people are going to get ultimate benefit of the taxes what we are paying. So that is all from my side. And once again, I thank Mr. Gaurav Goel for sharing his well experienced and rich knowledge among our students. I think students are very lucky to hear to him almost last 2 hours. So it is just a very wonderful program. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much for your session, sir. It was very wonderful. And one question from my side. After the GST has come in, how much of the work in the department has been smoothened?
Yeah. Definitely the workload has come down like anything now. The workload, because everything, the what do you call it, the electronic media, the electronic, there's so much advanced technology. Technology is taking care now, actually. Digital things are taking care, and workload has come down considerably now. Earlier, we're wasting a lot of time in just, huge files were there in the department, and assessment, the moment the files return, and we used to call the books of accounts from a person, and he used to come with the huge logs, so many ledgers and all that used to come, and you can't verify in 1 or 2 hours. And therefore, somehow, the assessments were made, and the assessment order was passed on him, and then he was paying some tax and all that, and everything was delayed. Even if you look at the environmental protection point of view also, it is so good now. Nobody is bringing any books now. Everything is digital. Everything is digital. So good. Now it's so simple. Once GST, the first return is filed, first return is about the sale. A dealer files the return of his sales. The moment he files return, all the purchases, their return is also finalized. His sales are purchased by somebody. Therefore, their purchases are also finalized. Therefore, final return is so good. Everything is very, very perfect. And all the bogus dealers will be done away with this GST structure. And department, now they can concentrate more on the quality work. And earlier refunds were, years together, refunds were the problem. Now refunds not a problem. Now the interface with the department is totally come down. One dealer need not go to the department at all now. For registration, for filing of the returns, for refunds, for anything you need not go, and everything is done at the department level only. And this is definitely the best for the dealers, the business people, and the industrialists. They are already happy about it. And in the meanwhile, it is also all the suppressions were made earlier. Suppressions made earlier. Now that it has come down like anything. People used to evade taxes. Now it has come down. Wherever few cases are some unscrupulous people, the elements are there in the society who are doing business, and only without doing the business, they are issuing the tax invoices and opening another firm and claiming the input tax credit and taking refund and all that. All these things have gone now. And definitely the workload of the department has come down. In the days to come, I think even so much of human power, manpower is not necessary, I hope, in the department in the days to come.
Thank you so much, sir, for your insight. And we are very happy to have you on the subject of this complex nature. You made it so easy. In fact, we request one more session later part of a semester when students should advance in their course.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mansa, please take it and close.
Thank you, Ramakant sir. It gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for all the dignitaries present here. I would like to thank Govindappa Gaudapgol sir for sharing his knowledge about GST. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank a beloved director, Dr. V.M. Korvi sir, and academic director, sir, Dr. Ramakant sir. Thank you, sir. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the staff members and my dear friends for attending this session. Once again, I thank one and all present here. Thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I request all the senior students to log out. I request all the senior students to log out. I request all the senior students to